You're a disgrace as a wife. You hardly earn anything, and you use work as an excuse to avoid doing chores. You have the nerve to act high and mighty when you don't contribute anything to this household. The usual berating from my mother-in-law began again. However, this time I couldn't stay silent, and I raised my gaze to meet her arrogant, condescending eyes. What's with that look? She's right. You rely on me for everything but can't contribute anything to our home. My spineless, mama's boy of a husband would say his piece and then retreat, hiding behind his mother. Next to us, my father-in-law remained indifferent to our situation. I've had enough of you in this house. Get out. Words can easily spill from our mouths, but they can be terrifying and come back like a boomerang. Regretting later is too late. No one knew that these words would lead to the downfall of my in-laws' lives, and my mother-in-law laughed triumphantly. Understood. If that's what you want, I'll leave. The next day, a car came to pick me up as I packed my things. Wait! Hold on a second! My mother-in-law's eyes widened in shock as she saw the person getting out of the car. Please! Reconsider! My husband desperately tried to stop me. With the arrival of this man, my true identity, which I had kept hidden, was revealed to the three of them. But it was too late, they could only stand there, bewildered, unable to pursue me. What's important for a family is trust. This family lost the very thing that held them together in an instant. Lacking the ability to repair what's broken, they were left to be ruled by desires in a world devoid of reason. They began opening the doors to their own personal hell, one by one. As I watched this family's fate unfold, I soared into the freedom of the sky. My name is Sarah. I've loved drawing since I was a child, and after graduating from art school, I now work as a designer. My designs, which include bags, accessories, clothing, and furniture, are widely popular, especially among women. Ideally, I'd establish a design office and expand overseas, but in reality, the space given to me as a workplace in my in-laws' home is a windowless storage room, and my work hours are limited, preventing me from fully engaging in my activities. 10 years ago, I married my husband Bobby, whom I met through a friend, and was forced to live with my in-laws at their insistence. At the beginning of our marriage, my in-laws were supportive of my work, promising me a dedicated workspace, ample time to focus on my job, and that my mother-in-law would handle the chores to avoid interrupting my work. They wanted us to live with them because they were anxious about their retirement. My father-in-law could no longer work due to aging and declining health, and my mother-in-law sought to ease her lonely, uncertain life in old age. I agreed to live with them, hoping to support them. But in reality, the house was cramped and cluttered to the point where there was hardly any space to walk. No matter how much I cleaned, my mother-in-law would throw things on the floor and spend her days lounging on the couch. The rooms were overflowing with my in-laws' belongings, and it was a struggle just to secure a place for my husband and me to sleep. The workspace I finally managed to find was a narrow, dim storage room where I was only allowed to place a single desk. Still, I made time to immerse myself in my beloved design work. It was my only escape. Sarah, you haven't cleaned the bathroom. The kitchen is full of trash. Did you vacuum? It's really dirty. Make sure you clean it properly. My mother-in-law's complaints grew by the day. I'm old and my body doesn't move like it used to, you understand that, right? Housework is a wife's job. Despite being in the middle of work, I couldn't help but cover my ears at her snide remarks from behind me. Excuse me, Mom. Could you let me focus on my work? I'll do what I can during breaks. But no matter how much I clean, the room gets messy again immediately. Could you help out a little too? I didn't mean to leave everything to my mother-in-law. I believed that household chores should be shared among family members. What did you say? You should be grateful we're letting you stay here without paying rent. What work? You're just using it as an escape and dumping everything on me. I see right through you. And asking an old woman like me to do housework, what an inconsiderate daughter-in-law. As soon as I spoke up, my mother-in-law went into a frenzy. I just wanted a little cooperation. Oh, poor me. I'm going crazy from the abuse I get from my daughter-in-law every day. I should have gotten a daughter-in-law. With that, she grabbed a large bag and left. Work, what design? You're not doing anything significant. Anyway, make sure everything is done by the time I get back. She yelled so loudly the whole neighborhood could hear. For someone with a frail body, she moved quickly, carrying heavy bags. Despite her words, my mother-in-law was full of energy and frequently headed to a nearby watercolor painting class. At the beginning of our marriage, she empathized deeply with my love for painting and started attending watercolor classes herself, but now, her interest seemed to lie more with the handsome instructor than with painting. Her outfits became more extravagant by the day. Despite the risk of getting paint on them, she wore a new dress and full makeup every day. I hope the teacher likes this souvenir from my trip. Recently, she found friends at the painting class who were also idle, and she started enjoying tea parties and trips frequently. Her energy was astounding for her old body. She often went shopping, buying new clothes, shoes, and cosmetics, and enjoyed lavish lunches and tea parties with her friends, and even trips. You might wonder where she got the money, as she didn't work. Of course, her pension wasn't enough, and money doesn't just appear out of nowhere. In reality, my mother-in-law was using my father-in-law's pension and about half of my husband's income. No wonder we were short on living expenses. Every month, I received cash from my husband for living expenses, but the amount was gradually decreasing. I had no choice but to supplement the shortage from my own income, but the amount I was supplementing far exceeded what I received from my husband. When I wished for a little more money for living expenses, my husband would always side with my mother-in-law. A perfect mama's boy. Why are you being so extravagant? You're just wasting money. Stop begging for money when you don't even work. And I heard from Mom that you don't do any housework even though you're living here for free. His insults continued. I'm giving money to Mom because you can't manage the living expenses properly. Mom can handle the money much better than you. How could he say such things without knowing anything? Watching our argument, my mother-in-law smirked and said arrogantly, "That's right, I don't need your help. Bobby is on my side. As long as you're living in this house, you should do the housework properly. They say they don't rely on me? They live comfortably with the living expenses I provide. It's pointless to argue any further." Suppressing my rising anger, I returned to my workspace, only to be met with their triumphant glances. Meanwhile, my father-in-law pretends not to see anything. He shows no interest in my mother-in-law's behavior and avoids any hassle by staying silent, always sitting in front of the TV, watching his favorite chess program. In place of my extravagant mother-in-law, I managed both work and household chores. To escape her nagging, I worked tirelessly, almost to the point of despair, wondering what I was living for. Yet, my mother-in-law always found something to complain about, like missed spots or a bit of dust, as if she was looking for flaws. Can't you even do the housework when you're home all day? She likely gossips about me with her friends. I lost the will to argue and just obeyed her like a slave, gradually accepting it as my fate. One day, she said, "There's a watercolor exhibition in a few months. The teacher personally asked me to participate because of my talent. I must have a knack for painting, so different from you, who's still struggling with your designs. Maybe I'm better suited for it." Returning home in high spirits, she threw these words at me, disrupting my concentration. "Oh, be quiet. Can't she just leave me alone?" Ignoring my frustration, she continued talking. "But exhibitions cost money. Between creating large pieces and the venue fees, it'll cost about $4,000, quite an expense. But I can't refuse since the teacher asked me." I knew exhibitions were costly, but surely she could cover it with the support from my father-in-law and husband. I ignored her selfish complaints. Then there's the post-exhibition party, the dress, and salon fees. All in all, I need around $6,000. I continued to focus on my work, determined not to react to her annoying voice. But she seemed irritated by my lack of response and changed her tone slightly. "Hey, are you listening? As someone who pursued art, you should understand what I mean. Or are you so untalented and poor that you've never had anything to do with exhibitions and parties?" Reaching my limit with her irritating remarks, I turned around involuntarily. "Can you give me that $6,000? Considering the rent and taxes you owe us, that's a fair amount. You're living here for free, after all. You must have saved up all your earnings, right? You have $6,000, don't you?" As soon as our eyes met, she looked down at me with a sarcastic smile. "You've got to be kidding. Most of my income goes toward living expenses, and even then, we're struggling. I don't have $6,000 just lying around." But I didn't have the strength to argue. Just looking at her made me feel nauseous and dizzy, my emotional state so fragile that I couldn't stand to share the same air with her. All I could manage was a weak okay. Satisfied with my response, she left the room, as I had hoped. Breaking out in a cold sweat from my reaction to her, I gently rubbed my pounding chest. I've had enough. But in this situation, where no one would help me, my spirit was further crushed. "Are you kidding me? You're supposed to be managing the household finances, and you can't even come up with $6,000? How incompetent are you? I give you enough money. The lack of funds is your fault. Figure it out yourself." I was scolded by my husband for failing to meet my mother-in-law's unreasonable demands. He had no idea how extravagantly she was spending. "The living expenses I receive from you every month are barely enough, and I've been supplementing the shortfall with my own income. Could you please reduce the amount you give to your mother and allocate a bit more for our living expenses? Please acknowledge what's happening. My mother-in-law's extravagance is making my life unbearable." But my husband only became more furious. "What did you say? Are you complaining about the way we do things? This is the mom who raised me with so much care. You think you can trample on my filial duty of giving her an allowance? Don't act so high and mighty when you're just a freeloader." A freeloader. I see, to this person, I was just a slave with the title of a wife. Such a slave is mentally pushed to the limit by them, forced to work mindlessly. I have no right to argue. In other words, to this family, marriage is just a means to acknowledge a relationship of submission, and I, who got married without knowing anything, had no choice but to obey this dictatorial force. After being verbally abused heartlessly by my husband, I woke up. This is no longer a place where I belong. Then my mother-in-law appeared. "Bobby, what's going on? Why are you shouting?" My mother-in-law looked concerned. Here we go. A mama's boy and his doting mother. When these two forces united, the attacks on me would only intensify. "Oh, Mom. I heard you're gonna be in an exhibition. Congratulations. That's amazing. You're so talented. Don't worry about the money, we'll take care of it." My husband's voice turned sickeningly sweet, and my mother-in-law responded in kind, her tone equally saccharine. Witnessing this unsettling relationship, I felt a terrifying chill run through me. I vowed to fight against them, no matter how much they tormented me. "There's no way we can find $6,000 in this house. If you really want to participate in the exhibition, Bobby needs to reconsider our finances, and you, Mom, should curb your extravagance and start saving. Anyway, there's nothing more I can do." Speaking robotically, I laid out the harsh reality, causing both of them to erupt like kettles reaching their boiling points. "That's not what you said. You nodded earlier, didn't you? You agreed to get the $6,000, didn't you? And who do you think you are to speak to Bobby like that? What do you mean by my extravagance? Don't mock me." As my mother-in-law ranted, my husband nodded in agreement. "I've already said I'll be in the exhibition and attend the party afterward. I can't back out now because we don't have the money. That'd be too embarrassing. Say something to her." Suddenly pulled into the conversation, my father-in-law, who had been staring at the TV, turned his head towards us in a panic. Yes, she's right. We need the money. If we don't have it, Sarah should find a way to earn more outside. In this fascist family dynamic, the weak sided with the strong to survive. Living life in the shadow of the powerful, like a remra, was, in a way, correct. That's right. Don't just rely on Bobby's money, you should work too. If you don't have $6,000 by next month, you know what'll happen, right? There'll be consequences, you parasite. In the end, the mother-in-law's yelling felt like a threat. I can't stand dealing with this selfish family any longer. My shoulders trembled. This life had to end. Seeing me trembling, they mistook it for fear. They exchanged triumphant smiles, thinking this slave would work hard and get the money as promised. None of them doubted it. That night, I walked into the living room where they sat and handed my husband divorce papers. Please divorce me. I'm leaving this house tomorrow. The cheerful expressions on their faces instantly changed to ones of horror as they glared at me. The living room fell silent, enveloped in a heavy atmosphere. What is this? What do you think you're doing? Predictably, it was my mother-in-law, the boss of this dictatorial society, who spoke first. You're not planning to run away over that $6,000 issue from earlier, are you? It's not about running away, I'm just tired of being at her beck and call. I've done my best for you all, but I've reached my limit. Please, let's divorce. I begged them. You're a disgrace as a wife. You hardly earn anything, and you use work as an excuse to avoid doing chores. Don't act so superior when you don't contribute anything to this household. At the watercolor class, my mother-in-law would wear thick makeup and act friendly. But her real face, when she took off that mask, was terrifying like a demon, and she began to berate me as usual. However, I wasn't the same person who would be defeated by her aggression. I raised my gaze to meet her arrogant, condescending eyes. What's with that look? She's right. You rely on me for everything but can't contribute anything to our home. My spineless, mama's boy husband would peek out from behind her shadow, only to retreat quickly. Even if you leave, you've got no money, no place to live, and you won't find a job. You're ungrateful and act all high and mighty. A woman like you will just end up being abandoned by society. Hiding behind the formidable wall of my mother-in-law, he spewed whatever he wanted. Those words, I'll throw them right back at you. Meanwhile, my father-in-law continued to ignore us, his gaze fixed on the TV. Fine. I'm fed up with having you in this house. Just seeing you irritates me. Get out. Then my husband let out a high-pitched laugh. Did you really think you'd have a happy life with Bobby after getting married? That was a huge mistake. Bobby's always on my side. Marriage was just a way to make things easier for me. They exchanged looks and sneered. If you're gonna leave, then hurry up and go. Don't ever come back to us, you useless woman. Their abnormal mother-son bond was likely something even my father-in-law couldn't penetrate. But proving that this love is everlasting and unbreakable will be their trial from now on. Do they have the strength to fix it when even one gear of this love falters? No, they will probably just watch helplessly as it all falls apart. As I pondered this, I left the bizarre space behind. The next day, I was ready to leave, holding the signed divorce papers. Thank you for everything, I said insincerely as I stood outside the door. You have no place to live and can't survive on your salary alone. It'll be too late to come crying back to me. This clueless man stayed defiant to the end. But with nerves as thick as his, he might manage somehow no matter what happens. Don't worry about me. I'll manage just fine. My ride should be here soon. As I looked around, a large van pulled up in front of the house. Mom, I'm here. A man quickly got out of the driver's seat, approached me, and efficiently loaded my large luggage into the back of the van. What? Seeing this man, my mother-in-law was so shocked she stood frozen, her eyes and mouth wide open. What? Why are you here, sir? Mom. My mother-in-law looked between me and the man, her eyes darting around. Her jaw trembled, shaking the excess flesh on her chin. Mom, what's wrong? Who is this? Do you know him? The man, having finished loading all the luggage, stood beside me and straightened up, casting a sharp look at my husband. Good morning. I've come to pick up my esteemed mentor at her request. I am Jones, the instructor of your mother's watercolor class. Seeing the coldness in his clear eyes, my husband stepped back in fear, unable to speak. The man then turned his gaze to my mother-in-law, who looked disheveled, without makeup, her hair a mess, and wearing a stained, shabby outfit. She always dressed up for her watercolor classes. So this stark difference must have surprised him. Clearing his throat, the man began to speak. Are you unaware of her true identity? She is one of the top 3 renowned watercolor artists in the country. At my class, I've often used her works as examples, but you were too busy chatting to listen. The two of them stood there, speechless, and the man continued. Regrettably, she retired from watercolor painting upon getting married. Creating watercolor art takes a long time, and she made the tough decision to prioritize her family. We tried to persuade her, but her marriage was her priority. I assumed she was enjoying her married life, but to think she was enduring such treatment. The man's anger rose, and his tone grew harsher. The two of them, frightened, stood there like frogs before a snake. She is a valuable person to our country. How could you treat her so poorly without knowing this? You've taken advantage of her without realizing how much she's done for you. Your future looks bleak unless you change your ways immediately. I had been secretly uploading design videos on YouTube as a side job, earning an income from it. Unlike watercolor painting, which requires many materials and space, design can be done with just a pencil, so I started it on a whim, and my channel quickly grew in popularity, and I became a successful YouTuber. Detailed explanations and comments boosted my channel's popularity. My style of designs garnered interest even from overseas. I had been using all my earnings for the household. Upon learning this for the first time, my husband let out a defeated whimper and sat down. She asked me to look after you, and I've turned a blind eye to your numerous inappropriate behaviors. Your loud chatter that echoes through the classroom, your refusal to use paints because they might stain your clothes, your constant snacking, and your irrelevant personal questions. It was all very unpleasant. Don't come to the class anymore. The once haughty mother-in-law now looked small and humbled. She probably wished she could disappear into a hole. And forget about participating in the watercolor exhibition. We don't want someone as vulgar as you at the event. That final blow made my mother-in-law kneel, hung her head low, and she could only whisper a faint yes. I moved back to my parents' house until I found a new apartment, and I began a comfortable life with my savings from my single days. I also resumed watercolor painting, and as I posted various works on my popular YouTube channel, my subscriber count kept growing. One day, while enjoying my prosperous life, my phone rang. It was my ex-husband. Hesitantly, I answered, and a loud, angry voice burst through the speaker, nearly shattering my eardrums. What the hell is this? The household account you managed is almost empty. I gave you money every month, and you added your income too. There should be more left. Was he finally realizing how little he earned, or was my mother-in-law still splurging? Or was he just venting his frustrations at me because his life wasn't going as planned? His nonsensical rant made me pull the phone away from my ear. What are you talking about? Do you remember how much you gave me each month? That amount barely covered the electricity bill. It was never enough. He refused to listen to me. Most of the necessary expenses came out of my income. If you're so short on money, stop your mom from splurging. Yet, he persisted in accusing me, intending to extort money from me. Mom has nothing to do with this. It's your fault for managing the household finances poorly. Where did the money go? Give it back, you thief. Listening to his nonsensical rant was a waste of time. I hung up the phone, ignoring his shouting. But later that night, my ex-husband showed up at my house with my mother-in-law in tow. We don't have enough money. How are the three of us supposed to live on this? Do something. Gone was the man who had been berating me over the phone. Now, he was crying and begging me for money. He was trying every trick in the book. But it was odd. No matter how low their income, they don't have to pay rent at their in-laws' house. If they live modestly, they should be able to cover living expenses for 3 people. Fine, write down all your expenses. We'll find the unnecessary ones. So, he wrote down his income and expenses. Of course, the money he gave his mother would now be allocated for living expenses. And there it was. A mysterious $2,000. What's this? A woman's intuition is sharp in such moments. Seeing my glare, my ex-husband's face turned red, and sweat began to pour from him. With a strained expression, he mumbled in a small voice. It's just a little fun. I knew it. He had been enjoying the nightlife. Introduced by a senior at work, he started frequenting nightclubs after work. He discovered that paying big money could get him all sorts of services, satisfying his desires with young women. Learning of her son's infidelity, my former mother-in-law's face turned crimson, and before she could speak, she slapped him across the face. You've been fooling around with some filthy woman. Disgusting. You better not have caught anything. I thought you were a good son who cared about his mom, but you spent more money on a cheap woman than on me. Her voice trembled with anger. I didn't raise you to be like this. My ex-husband glared back at her. And you, wearing expensive clothes and heavy makeup just to go to watercolor classes, flirting with the young teacher. He was annoyed by you. I'm better than you. I used my own money to have fun. Their accusations flew back and forth. To an outsider, they were equally to blame, proving the saying that money issues end relationships. Now that we've resolved the money issue, could you please leave? As I said this, my ex-husband turned his irritation towards me, changing the subject abruptly. That's irrelevant. More importantly, you'll have to agree to the division of property. After the divorce, marital assets are divided equally. Didn't you know that? Of course, I knew. His mother, standing next to him, nodded vigorously in agreement. Even if their relationship was strained, they wouldn't hesitate to team up if money was involved. Fine. Then I'll take legal action as well. I pulled out a recorder and some documents. They briefly rejoiced, but soon looked puzzled. This recorder has recordings of the verbal abuse and harassment you both directed at me. And these documents are my daily household ledgers, with receipts for electricity, gas, and everything else. These are concrete evidence. If this goes to court, you'll undoubtedly be required to pay compensation. My ex-husband turned pale, while my former mother-in-law looked confused, not comprehending the situation. What do you mean, compensation? How much are we talking about? It seemed they still didn't grasp the severity of their actions. The amount varies depending on the extent and the victim's mental state, but it generally ranges from $10,000 to $60,000. My former mother-in-law's knees gave out, and she let out a high-pitched scream. What? $60,000? We can't afford that. Please, stop. Don't do this. We'll apologize for everything. She crawled towards me, desperate. Even if we split the assets, most of my share is gone. I used nearly all my income to cover the household expenses, so my savings are minimal. Even if you get a share, the compensation will cost you more. Next, my former mother-in-law tried to placate me. That's right, Bobby. Let's not create more trouble. We'll handle this ourselves. We mustn't make Sarah angry. But my ex-husband, with a sinister smile, wasn't swayed by her plea. Don't pretend. I know you have a secret account with much more money in it. I saw your bank book. There were huge amounts in there. Supporting the strong is the way incompetent people survive in this world. My former mother-in-law switched sides once again, adjusting to the changing dynamics between me and my ex-husband. Is that true? You liar. How dare you deceive me? Now that we know, you can't make excuses. We'll get our fair share. Truly ignorant and naive parent and child. I am so amazed, I almost lose my words. Asset division, as you might know, only includes assets acquired after marriage. Did you check the dates on my account history? Those savings are from before our marriage, when I was single. They're not part of the division. So, they'll get very little. That seemed to settle the matter. My former mother-in-law switched sides again, glaring coldly at my ex-husband. You're useless. You said we'd get the money back, but now we're just leaving in disgrace. I can't rely on you anymore. Realizing he couldn't take anything from me, my ex-husband resorted to his last tactic. I'm sorry. Please, let's start over. He changed his attitude again, groveling with his forehead on the floor, tears streaming down. Pathetic. No matter how dramatic his performance, my feelings wouldn't change. Well, if you return all the living expenses I paid and give me your entire salary for our future living costs, I might consider reconciliation. Of course, I was joking. But he took it seriously, holding his head in despair. Living is tough. You should work hard and support your parents. With that, they left, defeated. Even after that, my ex-husband struggled with money, repeatedly bothering me and showing up at my parents' house begging for money. Finally, we consulted the police, and a restraining order was issued against him. Since then, I haven't seen him, nor do I know what he's up to now. However, I heard rumors that he couldn't give up his nightlife, throwing money around the bars every night, while my former mother-in-law became even more obsessed with young men, starting new hobbies and wearing expensive clothes and jewelry. As for their relationship, they no longer looked at each other affectionately, instead turning their backs and sometimes hurling insults. They couldn't fix the broken gear of their relationship, and it ruined their lives. Although my former father-in-law remained indifferent, the rumors of their family's collapse quickly spread in the neighborhood, making him feel ashamed perhaps, seeing the state of his family, or fearing his pension would be drained. He decided to live quietly elsewhere. As for the source of money for this spendthrift pair, it was likely consumer finance companies. Soon, terrifying debt collectors will visit those two, dragging them into their own personal hell. Meanwhile, I began living alone in the city, fully resuming my watercolor painting, creating numerous works for the world to see. Looking down at the town from the plane window on the way to the International Competition Award ceremony in France. Somewhere in this town, those two are still struggling with no money and nowhere to escape. What do you mean by keeping your son handcuffed? I went to help my son's family move one day. To my surprise, I found my 4-year-old grandson handcuffed in an empty house. My grandson was crouched down, surrounded by empty bread bags and a foul smell. Seeing this, I called my son furiously. However, he seemed confused. Huh? We've already moved out of there. What? The identity of the handcuffed child turned out to be quite alarming. I had been widowed a few years ago and now, at 62, lived alone, working twice a week as a hobby class instructor. I enjoyed my job, known affectionately by my students, and it was a source of fulfillment outside of work. My main joy in life, besides my job, was my 4-year-old grandson, Nick. One day, after finishing work, I checked my phone and found a message from my son, Bob, showing the cute birthday party of my grandson. Nick is already 4 years old. Happy birthday! Can I bring him a present next time? Bob replied, come over any time. At 34, Bob had worked hard to secure a respectable job and was living in the next city with his family. I wasn't very close to his wife, Jennifer, and saw her maybe twice a year. Without a specific reason, I found it hard to visit. A week later, I bought a character toy for Nick's birthday and some local sweets that Bob liked, and visited their house after a long time. As I opened the door, Nick ran towards me, his face lit up with joy. "Grandma." I was delighted and hugged him. "It was your birthday, wasn't it? Happy birthday." Then Jennifer came and took Nick away from me. Nick, let go. "Hello, Emily, thank you for coming today." She smiled, but her words felt cold. "Jennifer, I'm glad to visit. It's been a while, Bob." Pretending not to notice her attitude, I went to the living room and handed Jennifer the sweets and Nick the wrapped toy. Nick's eyes sparkled as he unwrapped it. And he immediately started playing with it. "Mom, Nick is really happy." "Thank you." "That's fine. I don't see him often, so it's the least I can do." After that, we were having a light-hearted conversation, watching my grandson play happily, when my son's phone rang. He said, "It's a work call, I need to step out for a moment," and left the room. "Bob is still busy, isn't he?" "Jennifer, you're doing a great job with Nick." I tried to talk to Jennifer, but she looked stern and was glaring at me. "Emily, please don't give Nick character toys." She said this coldly, without expression. "Why? Last time I saw him happy with this character on TV." "You don't understand. We're focusing on educational toys so he can follow in Bob's footsteps. This kind of toy is a bad influence." Jennifer frowned unhappily, and I felt dejected. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." But she continued to criticize. "And these sweets too. They might be fine for Bob, but I'm careful about Nick's diet. They have additives." "Okay, I'll remember that." "I'm sorry." Bob returned. And Jennifer's mood instantly changed to a cheerful demeanor. Even as we continued talking among the three of us, I couldn't help feeling a bit uncomfortable. So I decided to leave early. As I was leaving, Nick waved, saying, "Grandma, come again." Jennifer gave me a strained smile. Bob and Jennifer met at a speed dating event and married quickly. I was worried about their rushed relationship, but they seemed happy. Jennifer mostly raised Nick alone, and I was grateful for that. Still, her occasional sharp comments weren't new. She must care about Nick. Perhaps Jennifer, being estranged from her own family, was opening up to me in her way. I chose to see it positively. It happened some time later. I bumped into Jennifer and Nick while out shopping in town on my day off. "Oh, Jennifer, what a coincidence. Is Bob at work today?" "Yes, he's away on a business trip." Jennifer's face seemed slightly strained as she answered. "Where are you two headed?" "Well, we're going to the department store downtown." I was headed to the same place and offered, "If you're buying something for Nick, let me chip in. Can I come along?" Suddenly, Jennifer's expression changed, and she snapped at me. "Hey, Emily! Stop it. It's presumptuous of you to just tag along." I was just. "Don't be so overbearing. Don't make decisions for us." While I was taken aback by her reaction, Nick cheerfully told me, "Grandma, we're going to Ryan's house." "Is Ryan your friend?" He nodded in confirmation. "So, you're visiting a friend of yours, Jennifer?" "Yes, that's right." I thought she could have just said so, but I understood that a mother-in-law might be in the way during a friend's meetup. "Take care, then." "Fine, as long as you understand." And Jennifer quickly left with Nick. Watching them leave, I felt something unnatural about Jennifer's behavior. A few months later, Bob suddenly called. "I'm moving at the end of next month because of work. Does that mean you'll be further away?" "A bit, but still within reach." Disappointed that our meetings might become even less frequent, I offered. "Let me at least help with the move." Thinking I could at least help clean up, I asked Bob about the moving schedule. On the day of the move, I went to their house eager to help. But no one answered the doorbell, and there was no moving truck. "It's a moving day today, right?" Feeling something off, I used the spare key Bob had given me before to enter the house. Inside, it was empty. "What's going on? Where are they?" Confused, I went inside and was stunned by what I saw in the living room. A small child was handcuffed and crouched, facing away from me.
What? Why?
The child turned around, and I recognized the dirty face.
Nick!
Approaching my startled grandson, he moved away in fear. I thought it best not to frighten him and called Bob, trembling.
What do you mean by leaving Nick handcuffed?
What are you talking about?
I'm at your house right now. Don't play dumb.
Bob sounded confused as he replied.
Wait.
We've moved out of there.
What?
He explained that the move had been brought forward due to work, and he had messaged me about it weeks ago. Indeed, I then remembered receiving a message from my son a few weeks earlier saying, "The move has been brought forward." I must have missed it.
And Nick's right here with me.
I heard a cheerful "Daddy" from Nick in the background. When Nick knew it was me on the phone, he cheerfully called out, "Grandma, come visit our new house and play."
See, Nick's here. But there's another Nick here?
I was utterly bewildered.
Mom, what are you talking about? Are you tired or something?
Bob's voice softened, as if he thought I had lost my mind.
Should we go to the hospital together next time? That's fine, see you later.
I abruptly ended the call with my son to gather my thoughts and took a deep breath. But, indeed, there was a boy handcuffed right in front of me. If Nick is somewhere else, then who is this child in front of me? I looked closely at the child's face again. On closer inspection, he resembled Nick but seemed slightly older than my 4-year-old grandson.
What's your name? How old are you?
The boy with vacant eyes remained silent, simply spreading his palm out. Perhaps indicating he was 5 years old. One of his hands was handcuffed, and the other end was attached to the kitchen sink pipe. He couldn't go anywhere. Nearby, there were empty bread bags and a container resembling a dog's water bowl, creating a bizarre scene.
This is terrible.
The child seemed to be wearing a diaper, and there was a foul smell around. I took photos and videos of the scene, then immediately started to unlock the handcuffs.
Hold on, I'll get these off you.
The child, initially frightened, seemed to realize I meant no harm and quietly watched me. He was obedient and watched what I was doing. The handcuffs appeared to be fake, difficult for a child but manageable for an adult to unlock.
You're safe now. Why are you here?
As I freed the child from the handcuffs, I offered him the food and drink I had, continuing to speak to him. However, he remained silent no matter how much I asked. Just as I was considering calling the police, he finally spoke.
Mommy told me to stay here.
He said that he had been living with his father until a week ago when his father suddenly disappeared. Then his mother appeared, brought him here in the middle of the night, handcuffed him, and left. She returned only once, leaving some water and food.
It's cold here, I'm hungry, and I was scared of being alone.
I couldn't help but hug the tearful, pitiful child.
How could a mother do this to her child? Doesn't she have a heart? Who in the world does this?
As I trembled with rage, the child finally revealed his name. So that's how it is. With shaking hands, I took out my phone again and made a call. After explaining the situation, the person on the other line was speechless but promised to come right away. Later, I took the child to the hospital. The next day around noon, I was hiding in a certain place. Soon, I heard the front door unlock and footsteps approaching. I brought food. A woman holding a supermarket plastic bag entered the living room of the house where I was waiting in a closet. I was quietly observing the situation from inside the closet, holding my breath. But the living room was empty except for the handcuffs. Seeing this, Jennifer's face turned pale.
Hey, Ryan! Where are you? Answer me!
Yes, the boy's name was Ryan. The same friend my grandson had mentioned visiting before. And his mother was Jennifer, my daughter-in-law. Ryan had told me everything. That's why I was waiting in my son's old house, expecting Jennifer to bring food today. Jennifer seemed to be frantically searching the house, opening doors loudly. Ryan isn't here anymore.
Emily, what are you doing here? Jennifer, startled to see me revealing myself in the living room, looked as if she was about to collapse.
I found the boy. He's been taken to a proper place for protection.
Realizing her actions were discovered, Jennifer clicked her tongue and appeared to be deep in thought.
Why did you do this? Tell me the truth.
Speaking gently to avoid upsetting her further, she suddenly started crying.
Actually, before I met Bob, I was in a relationship with a man named Matt and had Ryan out of wedlock.
Jennifer spoke, looking down, seemingly in pain.
But Matt was abusive, and we split up. That must have been hard.
What happened next?
In the end, Ryan was taken in by Matt. I didn't want to let him go, but I had no income, and Matt forcefully took him away.
She struggled to speak, evidently pained by the memory, but continued.
Even after marrying Bob, I would often visit Matt's apartment because I was worried about Ryan.
The day she said Nick was playing with his friend, she was actually heading to Matt's apartment. She arranged for Nick and his friend to meet regularly, giving them a chance to play together as brothers.
It's sad for both being only children, so I thought it was better this way.
Yet, a week ago, after Matt contacted Jennifer, he disappeared. His apartment was vacated, leaving Ryan with nowhere to live. She brought Ryan to this house, which still had a contract until the end of the month.
I swear, I've had no relationship with Matt since marrying Bob. But Ryan is still a precious child to me.
As I listened without responding, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes.
But I couldn't jeopardize my family with Bob. You're a mother, you must understand.
Jennifer collapsed on the floor, crying. She appeared to be a very caring and devoted mother at that moment.
You said Ryan is a precious child to you, right?
Yes, of course. I coldly responded as I looked at her.
Then why would you handcuff him, make him wear a diaper, and refer to his food as feed? That's...
Her facade of a tragic heroine froze.
I thought you were dedicated to education, but is this how you treat a child? There's nothing I can say.
Jennifer's eyes darted around, sweat forming on her forehead.
And what about this?
I took out my phone, played a video, and showed it to her. It showed Nick and his friend playing in front of Matt's place. And Jennifer's voice could be heard from inside.
You were taking Nick to Matt's, driving boys out, and having an affair, weren't you? Well, this is...
I had found Ryan's apartment the night before and talked to the neighbors. One of them, concerned, had recorded the video.
Can you still say you care for the children? You were having an affair with Matt, right?
Jennifer's face turned red with anger.
Bob knows we're a happy family, right? Please don't destroy it. Don't tell him.
As she desperately pleaded, I brushed her off.
Why should I keep quiet? Because Bob is.
She stopped as the balcony door opened, and there stood Bob.
Because I'm a lawyer? Bob.
Jennifer looked utterly shocked. Yes, my son Bob's profession is a lawyer. Jennifer, who had been calmly speaking, suddenly showed her true colors and glared at me.
Why is Bob here? Did you snitch?
Bob stopped Jennifer as she attempted to lunge at me, her face red with anger.
I heard everything. You've been betraying me all this time, haven't you? It's not what it looks like. Listen to me.
She clung to Bob.
Matt is a good-for-nothing. I was deceived by him.
In her panic, Jennifer blurted out something outrageous.
The only thing good about him was our physical compatibility. And you, with your high-income lawyer job, you're the husband I deserve.
Bob looked at her with utter disgust.
Betrayal is one thing, but handcuffing a child is inhumane. I can't forgive you. No, I refuse this.
She started screaming and acting out like a child, to Bob's dismay.
Jennifer, we're getting a divorce. I'm taking care of Nick. And the police are on their way, so calm down. It's all your fault. If you hadn't found him.
In desperation, Jennifer pulled out a knife from her bag and charged at me. Then, brandishing it, she ran towards me.
Mom, watch out!
In that instant, I dodged Jennifer. She lunged at me, cursing, but I swiftly dodged her.
Don't run, you old hag.
When she attacked again, I knocked the knife from her hand.
Forgot I'm a master of combat sports and run a self-defense class?
I pinned her to the floor as she groaned. And police sirens approached.
Let me go. I'm appalled you show no remorse. Pay for your crimes.
Ignoring her screams, I kept her pinned down. The police arrived, and she was taken away, screaming. Bob and I watched silently. Later, I submitted the evidence to the police. Jennifer had brought other tools to harm Ryan. I was wondering what he was going to do after the handcuffs, but I was horrified when I learned from the police that she had even thought about that. She was arrested, and Matt was interrogated. The divorce was finalized. He's suing Jennifer to ensure child support. Jennifer, having lost everything, will struggle to live a normal life outside. Ryan was taken in by Matt's parents, who seemed decent, so I'm relieved. As for me, I moved in with Bob to help raise Nick. He was initially wary of the change but soon warmed up to me, and I'm teaching him combat sport. I plan to continue staying strong and energetic to watch over my grandson's growth in the coming years.
What's going on all of a sudden? Aren't you on a business trip? I'm kind of busy, so I'm gonna hang up. Wait a minute. Is there something else? You're at home today, right?
Yeah.
And you're coming back tomorrow, right?
Yes. All right then. See you. The call ended. I felt a bit cold, but I wasn't pessimistic. I was actually planning to return from my business trip a day early. Today was my husband's birthday, and I wanted to surprise him with a celebration. But when I got home, a shocking scene awaited me. Huh? Is someone here? While I was pondering this, I could hear voices coming from the living room. And not just any voices. My heart was pounding, echoing through me. I approached the door step by step, slowly. I took a deep breath and peeked through the gap in the door. Why? In the living room, my husband and my best friend were embracing on the sofa. Seeing them in each other's arms, I couldn't leave. The expressions he never showed me, the words he never said, all of it was suffocating me. I will never forgive this. The feeling of worthlessness was soon replaced by immense anger. I took out my smartphone from my bag and recorded a video of them through the gap in the door. Of course, I didn't stop there. I immediately sent the video to someone. That person was my best friend's husband.
They're doing this. That's unbelievable.
I could feel the same anger and helplessness in his voice, even over the phone. But what should we do?
They haven't noticed us yet.
So, maybe. I suggested something to my best friend's husband. He accepted the proposal, and we started our plan. As a result, what awaited my husband and the others was hell. My name is Nancy, and I'm 27 years old, working as a salesperson. It wasn't a job I started out loving, but now I find it fulfilling every day. I switched careers to this job, and my trainer back then was the man who would later become my husband, Harry.
How's it going? Getting used to the job?
Yes. Thanks to you, I've learned a lot.
That's good. Looks like you'll be ready to go on sales calls by next week.
Yes, I will.
Don't worry. I'll be accompanying you at first.
Harry was always kind in teaching me the job, and it was natural for me to be drawn to him. After work, he often took me out for drinks, making me look forward to going to the office every day. Harry seemed to like me too, and about 6 months after I changed jobs, he confessed his feelings to me. Looking forward to being with you.
Me too. Well, at work, since we're colleagues, we'll need to keep it formal, but feel free to speak casually otherwise. Yeah.
I hadn't had much experience with relationships before, so sometimes I wondered if I was good enough for someone like me. But he accepted me for who I was. That's why I placed immense trust in Harry. Another 6 months passed, and a new truth came to light.
What's with the formality all of a sudden? Oh, how should I say this?
Harry looked unusually weak, something I couldn't have imagined from his usual self.
I'll listen properly, okay? Thank you.
What Harry told me next was beyond my imagination.
Actually, Nancy, you're the first woman I've ever been in a relationship with.
What? Really? You didn't seem like it.
I've been managing to cover it up until now.
Harry said this with a shy look, which made him appear really adorable. I wondered why such a great guy had never had a girlfriend before, but I thought it would be rude to ask and kept it to myself. 2 months later, on my birthday, Harry proposed to me. Of course, I accepted immediately.
Here, this is for you.
Thank you. It was a ring adorned with a small diamond. Overwhelmed with joy, I hugged Harry. Are you happy?
Of course I am.
I'm so happy. After that, we rented a new apartment and moved in together. We officially became husband and wife, starting our new life. That's when I got a call from my high school best friend, Adriana.
Why didn't you tell me? About what?
Not about what.
About your marriage. Oh.
Right. I had told Adriana about our relationship, but I hadn't informed her about our marriage.
Sorry.
We've been busy with finding a new place and all.
That's okay. Can I come over to visit sometime?
Sure, but...
And I've got something I want to tell you, too.
Okay, got it. From past experience, I knew that when Adriana said something like this, it usually wasn't good news. I mentioned this to Harry.
My best friend wants to come over, is that okay? Of course. Thank you.
A week later, Adriana came over. I went to the door as the intercom rang. When I opened it, there were 2 people standing there. Well? This is Hugo, my fiancé.
What?
I exclaimed so loudly it seemed to echo throughout the house. Hearing this, Harry came over.
What's wrong? That was quite a shout. It's okay, don't worry.
Then Harry noticed something.
Huh? Why is Hugo here? Harry! What? Do you two know each other?
More like, we're colleagues at work and friends. It took me a moment to process all this new information. I never imagined that my best friend's fiancé would be Harry's coworker.
Wow. What? It's not often that partners or friends know each other, right? Well, yeah, that's true.
Adriana was visibly excited, her eyes sparkling like a child who had found something rare. Anyway, I invited them into the living room, and we started chatting. The confusion settled, and we shared stories about how we met. And just before they left.
Hey! Since we're all here, why don't we exchange contact information? Contact information?
It's fate, right? Why not? So, Nancy and Hugo, Harry and Adriana exchanged phone numbers. Adriana sure is a lively person, isn't she?
Yeah, she's always been like that. Got me into a lot of trouble back in the day.
But you looked like you were having fun.
Do I?
Soon after, Adriana also got married. This meant more involvement with our close friends as couples. But then, Harry's behavior began to change. I first noticed it one day when he came home from work.
Why didn't you answer your phone? Huh? You called? And have you been drinking?
The smell of alcohol wafted around Harry as he spoke.
Yeah. Hugo invited me for drinks after work. Just stopped by his place. Why didn't you tell me? Sorry. I meant to call.
I thought maybe it was a one-time thing. But what if it happened every other day? Indeed, he started going out more on weekends. This was the beginning of the cracks in our marriage. I also introduced Harry to a chiropractor I used to visit because he complained about back pain. He was tall and had a severe hunchback. But when he came back from the chiropractor, he looked remarkably better.
You look different. Do I? But I do feel lighter. You definitely look more handsome. Thanks.
I was amazed how much of a difference just straightening his back made. And his face seemed to have regained some vitality too. It was when Harry started going to the chiropractor regularly and I accompanied him once. In the treatment room, I had an unexpected reunion.
Could it be Michelle? Nancy, is that you? Why are you here?
I transferred here from another place.
Oh, I see.
Michelle was another good friend of mine, like Adriana. We were all in high school together, but she moved away in our sophomore year due to family reasons.
It's been since high school, hasn't it?
Yeah. I never thought we'd meet here.
Me neither.
Michelle's massage skills were impressive. It was clear she had a lot of experience.
Be sure to come back.
I will. As I was paying, I noticed Harry, who had finished his treatment earlier, was comfortably chatting with Michelle on the couch. I left the place feeling a bit uneasy. On the way home. Wow, I feel really refreshed today.
You do look great. But I wanted to ask you something. What's up?
You seemed pretty close with Michelle.
What? Nancy, you know her? Well, she's a friend from middle school. Really? Yeah, but I just found out today she works there. Oh, I see. Michelle is your friend. Is something wrong? No, not really. Let's just head home. I'm hungry.
Though I had my doubts, I decided not to dwell on it further. As time passed, we might become acquaintances. I thought. Life was relatively peaceful, but Harry's late returns were still the norm. As newlyweds, this was starting to bother me.
Isn't it strange you're always this late? What's wrong all of a sudden? We are still newlyweds, you know.
Yeah, that's true. He seemed not to grasp the seriousness of the situation. But that wasn't all.
It's like it's none of your concern.
That's not true.
I've been thinking about a lot.
Can't help it. A bit early, but...
Huh?
Harry handed me a small box. It reminded me of the one he had when he proposed. I opened it and found a ring inside. Small but brilliantly shining.
But why? You forgot? Day after tomorrow is Nancy's birthday, right?
I completely forgot.
I've been asking Hugo and others for advice on what to give for your birthday. Yes, I drank and came home late, but it wasn't because I disliked Nancy. Really?
Really. Harry gently hugged me after saying that. It was more than enough for me. I felt Harry's love for me anew. After giving me the ring, Harry started coming home earlier and stopped coming back drunk. I really thought everything was finally settled. Months passed and the season changed to a cold winter. On Christmas Eve, we decided to gather at our house. It was Harry and me, Adriana and her husband, and Michelle. After enjoying some drinks and having a great time, Adriana, already feeling good, made a suggestion. Why don't we all go for a walk a bit?
That sounds nice. Nancy, what do you think?
I think it's a great idea. Then let's go early. We headed to a nearby park. As we got close, the place was crowded with people because of an event.
There are so many people here. Indeed. We should stick together so we don't get lost.
As we walked towards the park, we quickly got separated. I had left my phone at home since it was only a 10-minute walk. Why do I always forget it at times like this? I pushed through the crowd, looking for Harry and the others. Unable to find anyone, I sat down on a bench at the edge of the park. Where could they be? I heard whispering behind me. Turning around, I saw several trees, like a forest. Squinting, I could make out the shadows of a man and a woman, apparently kissing. Suddenly, someone spoke to me, nearly making my heart jump out of my chest. Nancy? What are you doing here?
Oh, Hugo!
I got separated and was looking for everyone when I saw you. I see. I glanced back at the forest where I had seen the two people, but they were gone. For now, we decided to head back to the entrance. After waiting about 10 minutes with no sign of the others, we decided to search again.
Shall we search again? Yes, let's do that.
We went around looking for the other 3 once more.
Oh, do you have your phone? Yes, I do. Oh, right. Why didn't I think of that?
Hugo tried calling Harry and Adriana, but neither answered. He had exchanged numbers with Michelle today, so he called her. Michelle answered right away. I took the phone.
Michelle? Where are you?
Well, near the big tree.
And the others?
Leave it to me.
Wait.
The call ended. I told Hugo about the call, and we both puzzledly headed back towards the bench. There, we found the 3 of them sitting on the bench.
You were here all along? We've been looking for you too.
Yeah, but we couldn't find you anywhere. While the 2 of them were saying this, Michelle was silent.
Michelle? Is something wrong?
No, nothing.
Okay.
I felt something was off with Michelle's behavior at that time. Afterward, the 5 of us returned home. Throughout the journey, Michelle was very close to Harry. She made gestures like linking arms with him, and Harry seemed to reciprocate. Seeing their expressions was frustrating for me. When we arrived home, we decided to take a nap until morning. We all ended up sleeping in the living room, with Michelle sleeping close to Harry. We slept until noon the next day.
We really overslept, huh? Is something wrong, Adriana?
No, why?
Well, you just seem a bit grumpy.
No, it's nothing. While talking to Adriana, I noticed Michelle laughing at us from the back. Harry was also smiling and chatting with Michelle. After they left, I confronted Harry. That's not true. Why would you think that?
Huh? You were grinning the whole time.
What are you talking about?
You were happily chatting with Michelle. There's nothing wrong with talking. It's not about that.
Enough already. This is getting annoying.
Where are you going?
Anywhere's fine. Harry took his wallet and left. This was the real start of hell. Harry hardly came home, and when he did, we only had brief conversations like work updates. He usually returned when I was asleep. Anticipating this, I waited for him in the living room. What? You're still up?
I wanted to talk.
Talk? I don't have anything to say. I'm tired, let me sleep.
Wait, we can at least talk.
Harry got increasingly irritated and did something unthinkable.
Hey, what are you doing?
What? It's none of your business. Harry had never referred to me in such a way.
Stop it, please.
Ignoring me, he threw the photographs we took on our trips, which I had cherished since our marriage, into the trash can. Not just that. He also carelessly threw away the engagement ring and other items. As if they were garbage.
Stop it!
I covered the trash can with my body. Harry kicked the trash can. It wasn't too big, but the impact sent me flying.
Why did I even marry a troublesome woman like you? What are you saying?
His eyes didn't look kind like Harry's anymore. He seemed like a different person, and I was terrified. Because I was covering the trash can, I felt pain in my abdomen. Seriously, how long are you going to stay like that? You're in the way.
Do you realize what you're doing?
Yeah, I do.
From now on, you're going to listen to what I say, right? That's not going to happen.
Harry then went to the bedroom and, unbelievably, went to sleep. Meanwhile, I rubbed my stomach and gathered the memories that were thrown in the trash can. I couldn't put them back in their original place, so I stuffed them into a bag I found nearby. I didn't like storing them this way, but I wanted to avoid them being thrown away again. Of course, I wasn't just going to stand by after this. The next day, I used my lunch break to prepare divorce papers. There was no bright future in staying with Harry. I waited for him to come home. He was late as usual. Arriving past midnight. I'm home. Welcome back. Oh, you're still up?
I have something important to talk about, sit down. Huh? I don't have time for this. Just sit down.
Fine. I managed to get him to sit down. We sat facing each other, but Harry was in a bad mood the entire time. I took a deep breath and faced Harry. Here. I handed him the prepared divorce papers.
What's this?
Divorce papers.
Why? After what happened yesterday, this is the only option.
I can't take it anymore.
Wait a minute.
No way. And you're cheating with Michelle, aren't you?
What? What are you talking about?
You were always so happy talking to her, and you were all lovey-dovey with Michelle. I was convinced that Harry was cheating on me with Michelle.
Aren't you misunderstanding something? Sure, we talked, but that's only because she started the conversation. That doesn't mean you're not cheating.
Are you serious? Harry seemed unfazed.
If you doubt it so much, why don't you ask Michelle? But if you two are in cahoots, asking won't mean anything.
All right. Harry started making a phone call.
Who are you calling? Just be quiet for a little while.
30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Wondering who it could be at this hour, I went to the door. There stood Michelle.
Michelle! So that was your phone call earlier.
Can I come in?
Sure.
Now it was me, Harry, and Michelle. I was a bit tense, but I couldn't back down.
Can you explain what this is about? I'm a witness that Harry isn't cheating. Right?
Yes.
Nancy, we're not having an affair. I can't believe this.
It's true.
Well, actually, never mind.
Huh?
So I told you, didn't I? We're not in that kind of relationship. If you really can't believe it, suing is an option. But ultimately, it's Nancy who will suffer.
Michelle's eyes, looking straight at me, didn't seem to be lying. Maybe I thought so because we had been friends for so long. However, I was still in doubt. Even if what Michelle said was true, the fact that Harry had disregarded what was important to me hadn't changed.
Then why did you throw those things in the trash? That was, well, not because I disliked Nancy. I was out of my mind at that moment.
Harry stood up and apologized. It almost made me feel like I was the bad one. As I was thinking this, I noticed Michelle looking at me, trying to convey something. I had never seen her so serious before.
Please, forgive me.
All right.
But there won't be a next time.
I understand. Since then, we have been having relatively peaceful times, I think. Amidst this, my business trip got scheduled.
I'm off, then. It's 3 nights and 4 days, right?
Yes.
Take care.
I left for the business trip. It went smoothly, and I was able to return a day earlier than planned. Returning a day early meant I could celebrate Harry's birthday. I kept my return a surprise. However, since it was Sunday, I would be in trouble if he wasn't home. So I called to check his whereabouts.
What's up all of a sudden? Aren't you on a business trip? I'm a bit busy, so I'm gonna hang up.
Just wait.
Is there something else? You're at home today, right? Yeah. And you're coming back tomorrow, right?
Yes. All right then. See ya. The call ended. I felt a bit cold, but I wasn't pessimistic. I was preoccupied with celebrating Harry's birthday. I couldn't buy a big cake, but I bought a small one. I also bought wireless earphones he had wanted as a gift. But when I returned home, a shocking scene awaited me. Is someone here? While pondering, I heard voices from the living room. Not just any voices. My heart was pounding, echoing through me. I slowly approached the door. Taking a deep breath, I peeked through the gap in the door. Why? In the living room, Harry and Adriana were embracing on the sofa. Why are those two together?
But that conversation earlier was so funny, wasn't it?
Right?
It was a masterpiece. And to think she suspected Michelle. Well, thanks to that, we can be together like this.
Indeed. So that was what it was all about. After that conversation, they began to passionately love each other again. Watching them, I was so confused that I couldn't move. The expressions they showed each other, the words they exchanged, it all suffocated me. I told myself to calm down and took a deep breath. Then, slowly, anger began to well up inside me. I will never forgive this. I felt ashamed for having doubted Michelle, but forgiving them was not an option for me now. I took out my smartphone from my bag and recorded a video of the two through the gap in the door. But I didn't stop there. I had an idea. I decided to send the video to someone. It was Adriana's husband, Hugo.
Did you see the video I just sent? She's doing this.
Unbelievable.
She's been deceiving me. No, it's worse than that, Harry.
I could feel the same anger and helplessness from Hugo over the phone. But what should we do?
They haven't noticed us yet.
So, maybe. I suggested something to Hugo. He agreed to the plan, and we started our actions. What awaited the husbands was hell. I quietly left the house and waited for Hugo's arrival.
Sorry, I'm a bit late.
No problem.
Are you ready?
Of course. We entered the house again. From the living room, we could hear their intimate noises. Peeking through the gap, I felt nauseous.
Are you okay?
Thank you.
I'm fine.
Hugo's fists were trembling, perhaps from the force of his grip.
By the way, is Hugo okay?
Yeah. He's fine.
He's quite oblivious.
I see.
He's good at his job, but he's too serious and boring.
That's harsh. It's okay.
I'm just using him as much as I can.
Unable to bear it anymore, Hugo opened the door and barged in.
What the hell are you two doing?
Hugo looked like he was about to hit them. He must have wanted to. But he spoke calmly instead. The two were frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. Really, such foolish people.
What?
Well, I guess I'm part of that too.
And weren't you supposed to be on a business trip? I was supposed to be, but I came back a day early to celebrate your birthday.
For this, I threw the present and cake I had bought at Harry.
What's this?
A present for you. Really messed up people. Human trash is what you call people like you. Adriana reacted to those words.
What? It's because you're boring. Harry is so much better than you. Hey!
Hugo, please calm down. So? What are we going to do now? It's obvious.
We're getting a divorce right away.
The two seemed not to have considered that seriously. They were showing a look of surprise. If so, they were truly foolish.
But wait! What about Michelle?
Adriana confronted Harry.
What are you talking about? Even last time, you two had a suspicious vibe, right?
It was like seeing myself from a little while ago. Call Michelle here. I sensed this was about to turn into a real mess. Adriana thought Harry and Michelle had an affair, but considering what happened before, that seemed unlikely. Harry called Michelle. She arrived here in about 10 minutes.
What's going on with everyone?
Adriana immediately attacked Michelle.
You were having an affair with Harry, weren't you?
What? No way. Right?
Yes, of course.
Then why were you so clingy? Michelle started laughing.
Oh, that?
Well, what's so funny?
Because it's just as I imagined.
Huh?
My reason for getting close to Harry? It was to draw you out.
I couldn't quite grasp what Michelle was saying.
What do you mean? We all gathered and I suspected something between the two. I was testing to confirm it. Why didn't you tell me? Because Nancy, you can't hide your feelings.
Michelle was right in what she said. If I had been told, I would have been staring at the two of them.
But was what I did too meddlesome? Not at all. Well, after doing all this, it might be hard to live a normal life from now on.
Oh, right. I have something to ask Michelle. I whispered in Michelle's ear.
Ah, I see. Leave it to me.
Michelle seems to know things I don't. Then Harry and Adriana reacted.
Hey! What are you talking about?
Nothing important.
Aren't you embarrassed, whispering like that?
Not at all.
Anyway, you'll probably be hearing from a lawyer later.
Look forward to it.
That's how it is. Can you two leave now?
You're in the way. They hurriedly dressed and left the house together. We who remained sat down at the table and took a breather. I'm so tired.
But the hard part is just beginning.
It's really headache-inducing. Later, we drank canned beer at the house and commiserated with each other. Hugo and I went to a lawyer's office together afterward. With the video I had filmed, our divorce process seemed straightforward. After the divorce was finalized, Harry contacted me.
What the hell did you do?
What?
Why so sudden? Because of you, I had to quit my job.
Really? That's interesting.
Don't you care?
Well, it's your fault, isn't it? Good luck.
We're not done talking. Goodbye.
I hung up and sighed. I also called Michelle. Thanks to her, Harry had lost his job.
What's up?
Thanks to you, Michelle. Harry is jobless now.
Good to hear.
What else did you say besides the video? Stuff about the walk.
Like how the two of them were in the woods that time. Trying to start something in the cold. You know, various things.
Seriously?
But this will make things easier. How's Adriana?
I also asked about Adriana, and it seems she also quit her job. I heard from Hugo that things were even worse than imagined. After the divorce, Harry and Adriana started living together, but they were constantly fighting and struggling financially. Really just fools. Since then, I've been enjoying my single life. Michelle and I continued our friendship. From now on, I will